Hey everybody, I am here with Eric. We are at Pubcon in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where it's absolutely beautiful outside. There's palm trees all around us. There was even a tornado yesterday, so we're definitely in Florida. It's been pretty exciting so far.
Ashley clicked her heels together twice. Wizard of Oz, right? Saved the day.
Saved us from the tornado. But Eric's going to be talking about storytelling tomorrow for the Pubcon attendees, and so I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and kind of get your feel on what storytelling really means in the digital marketing world.
Cool. Yeah, so that sort of is what we do as a company, right? Is help businesses tell better stories. And I don't think it's ever been more important, especially in light of the fact that Facebook and some of the other platforms are sort of cracking down on some of the things that you're not really supposed to be doing.
Yes.
For people that know how to tell good stories, that's not really so much of a problem. In fact, it sort of removes a lot of the scum from the bottom and allows us to do what we do better, right? And so it's really, really important that you know some good stories that you can tell around your business, around your brand, around the experience your customers have with your products and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan. I love talking about it, so it should be fun.
Yeah. Well, and it makes so much sense for businesses. But what's one thing that you notice when businesses and brands try and do storytelling that they mess up on, they butcher, they shouldn't do? Like, what's a big don't do when you're trying to work on telling your brand story?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so I think what I would say is I see a lot of businesses with marketing departments or who are interacting with sort of, they have an agency of record. And what they do is they're worrying about top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, which is great.
Yes.
But you have to make sure that you're telling the right story across that experience so that you're not putting chapter 2 before chapter 5 and so that the villain is the same sort of throughout, right? And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, we'll do this top of funnel thing and then we'll do this middle of funnel thing and we'll do retargeting. And again, that's lovely. That's wonderful.
Necessary.
Yeah, but you really have to think about sort of the experience and the story that people are going to hear and experience as they go through that journey, right?
Definitely.
First and foremost.
Yes. I love how you said villain because it brings you back to what storytelling really is, like going back to storybooks. Everyone has a villain. Everyone has the who, what, when, where, why.
The hero's journey.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But it's so hard for businesses and brands to find what their villain is or what their who, what, when, where, why is. Is there something that they can do to kind of break that apart and make it a little bit more obvious? Or is there a brand that you recommend that does a great job of this?
What I would say, Ash, is a lot of businesses that we work with, there's multiple villains.
Yes.
And so you just have to be cognizant of who your audience is and who that avatar is and what the pain is that they're experiencing so that they understand the villain, right? So like, is the villain, cancer, for example, if you're in, a health space, or is the villain, big pharma or the other companies that don't care so much about you as a person, right?
Yes.
So there could be any number of villains, but if you start at the top telling the story of one villain and then suddenly it switches mid-story through your funnel because you've got maybe a different team doing Facebook ads from the one that you have doing your landing pages from, right? So you just have to make sure that you're aware of how that story progresses and transitions through that 3-act story type.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
Super nerdy.
Yeah, I know it is.
Super nerdy.
It's the fun part within the digital marketing agency where you can just get super creative.
It's so good, right?
Yeah, you can really dive into it. And with storytelling, you may not always get your story right the first time. It may take a couple times. Usually the best story is the CEO, it's the business owner, it's the person behind. Have you ever seen that it works better the other way around when it's more of who the consumer is versus who the CEO is, or is it by industry?
Well, I think there's a little bit of both, right? Because you have to build trust and you have to build authority, and that comes from having sort of a reason why and explaining why your company exists and why it's important and maybe the struggles that the owner of your company went through to build the company or whatever that may be, right? But then there's also testimonials, right? Which is sort of that voyage and return story or the quest story where, someone maybe was overweight and then they became skinny, or maybe someone had terrible lower back pain and now suddenly they're able to lift their kids in the air.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so there's, like I said, there's just a number of different stories. You just have to get clear on the ones that you want to tell and then be consistent in how you tell them.
Consistency, that's key. When you said the losing weight, I immediately thought of the Subway story, Jared.
Right.
and they
Well, I'm
use
looking at
shared
you
as
and
a
me,
story
right?
for
Like
forever.
it's before, after, right? So I've lost a lot of weight, but you know, but either way, right? You have to, and you'll notice visually when people are doing things right in that space, they will put the before photo on the left and the after photo on the right,
On the
because
right.
we read left to right.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And so it makes sense, and it shows progression. It shows
Exactly.
right? So there are certain little tiny things you can do from a visual or vocal standpoint to better tell those engaging stories throughout a funnel, whether you're in tofu land or mofu land or bofu
Yes.
land or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, the fun tofu, mofu, bofu.
You know what I got to
references.
tell you? Do you like musicals?
Yes,
A
but I
little?
haven't been to a musical in a really long time, so that's why yes, but I'm not
The
like
Greatest
diehard.
Showman? Have you seen The Greatest Showman?
No.
So, folks, you got to watch the movie The Greatest Showman. It is a very straightforward and typical rags to riches story.
Oh,
So it's like Rocky, only with a top hat and a cane and some elephants.
perfect.
But-
And some elephants.
But I'm telling you, as an entrepreneur, I'm guessing that if you're watching this, most likely you work in marketing or you're an entrepreneur. You will relate so immediately to that story because he's an entrepreneur. He has this big vision for what the universe holds for him. He works tirelessly to get it. He finally gets it, and then he loses it all and makes some bad decisions, which I think any entrepreneur can relate to,
Yes,
right? And then at the
yes.
end, he gets it all back. And it's just such a good payoff, right? And it's one of those 7 stories where why mess with it? It works so good and it's so inspirational. And so as you work to tell better stories in your business, the 2 things I would leave you with, one of them would be to listen to stories, listen to story podcasts, listen to, This American Life, Snap Judgment. What's the other NPR one? Storyville, Story Central, something like that.
And there's a couple good ghost story ones.
Yeah. Oh, the murder podcasts?
Oh,
Don't get me started.
gosh. Those are some stories.
I love them. Overcoming the Monster. It's
Yep.
another story type.
Yep.
And then the second thing I would say is just pay attention to stories that really motivate you and resonate with you and really speak to your heart, and figure out a way to tie that into what you're doing without being cheesy or lying,
Yes.
obviously, right?
Yes.
But figure out a way to tie that into what you're doing with your business, and it will motivate people. It will resonate with people.
Awesome. Great advice. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
being on,
no
Eric.
problem.
His Twitter handle and all of his contact info is going to be at the end of this, so make sure you go follow him for all of your storytelling and branding needs. Thanks, guys.
See ya.